Hey there, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. So glad you could join us. Today, we're getting into something that, well, it affects every single one of us, money. Now, we've dug into all sorts of topics on this show before, tech, history, always looking for those, key takeaways. But today, we're turning that focus inward, looking at our own personal finances, which, let's be honest, can feel a bit intimidating sometimes. You ever feel like your money situation is just, I don't know, a tangled mess?
Yeah.
Or really saving is just some kind of impossible dream. If you do, seriously, you are not alone. So many of us feel overwhelmed, like the system's kind of rigged against us. But here's the really cool part, the empowering bit. We actually have this incredible power to sort of re-engineer our own behavior, to make these tiny, almost invisible changes that, add up over time to something massive. And that right there is exactly what we're diving into today.
That's right. We're really digging into atomic habits for financial success, 4 micro changes with massive return psychology of money. And, having spent, over a decade in financial psychology, I can tell you this for sure. Our money decisions, they're hardly ever purely rational.
Mm-hmm.
They're all tangled up with our emotions, our pasts, our fears, what we hope for. And this atomic habits idea gives us such a great way to see that real lasting change with money. It doesn't come from some huge overnight thing.
Right, no magic wand.
Exactly, no magic wand. It grows from these tiny, consistent, almost effortless little adjustments you make every day. And these aren't just practical tips, they're psychological hacks. They work with how our brains are wired, helping you build financial systems that actually work for you instead of, you feeling like you're fighting them all the time. And the payoff, sure, a healthier bank balance is great, but it's deeper. It's that real sense of financial peace, of being in control.
I love that focus on tiny, consistent adjustments. It immediately makes me think of the classic example, the aggregation of marginal gains, the story of the British cycling team.
Oh, it's a fantastic illustration, yeah.
For nearly 100 years they were.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say not great. Pretty awful, actually.
Yeah.
One Olympic gold medal since 1908. No Brit had won the Tour de France in 110 years. It got so bad, bike companies apparently refused to sell them bikes. Didn't want their brand associated with them.
Yeah, talk about being in a tough spot, a really challenging place for any pro team. But then Dave Brailsford came in as the performance director. And he had this, pretty radical philosophy at the time. His idea was so simple on the surface, but the impact was huge. Basically, break down absolutely everything that goes into riding a bike, the gear, the rider's body, the support team, everything, and then just try to improve every single tiny piece by just 1%. The thinking was all those little 1% gains would add up to something massive.
And they really went for it, didn't they? Almost obsessively. It wasn't just tweaking the bike seats or the aerodynamics, which you'd expect. No, they looked at everything. The kind of massage gel they used. They hired a surgeon just to teach the riders the proper way to wash their hands to avoid getting colds.
Minimizing sick days.
Exactly. They figured out the perfect pillow and mattress for each rider for optimal sleep. They even painted the inside of the team truck white.
Right. Not for looks.
No.
Yeah.
So they could spot tiny bits of dust easier, clean it up, because maybe, just maybe, that dust could affect the bike mechanics, even slightly.
Incredible detail.
It sounds almost crazy, right?
Yeah.
But the results, wow, just legendary. Within 5 years, Beijing Olympics 2008, they just dominated, took home 60% of the gold medals available. 4 years later, London Olympics, smashed 9 Olympic records, 7 world records.
Astonishing turnaround.
And then in the Tour de France, they won it 5 times in 6 years. It wasn't just getting better, it was a total revolution, all built on those tiny 1% improvements.
It's such a powerful story, isn't it? And it nails a fundamental psychological truth that applies perfectly to our money. Habits really are the compound interest of self-improvement.
Compound interest of self-improvement. I like that.
Yeah. Just like, a small amount of money invested consistently grows exponentially thanks to compound interest. Well, the effects of your habits, good and bad, they multiply in exactly the same way as you repeat them. On any single day, changing one tiny habit might feel like nothing. Did that even make a difference?
Totally. Feels insignificant.
Exactly. But keep doing it day after day, week after week, for months, for years. The cumulative effect is just enormous. It's only when you look back, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line, that's when you see the huge value of those good habits and, unfortunately, the real cost of the bad ones. It becomes crystal clear then.
So it's that steady persistence with the small stuff, not the big flashy gestures, that really moves the needle.
Precisely. Think about it like an ice cube. Imagine it's sitting in a room. The temperature is, say, 25 degrees Fahrenheit. then 29 degrees, then 31. Visibly, nothing's happening, still a block of ice.
Right.
But then the temperature creeps up just one more degree to 32 degrees Fahrenheit, and boom, it starts to melt. That tiny 1 degree shift, which felt exactly the same as the shifts before it, unlocks this massive visible change.
Huh. A tipping point.
Exactly, the tipping point. Or another one I like. Picture an airplane taking off from Los Angeles, heading for New York City. If the pilot adjusts the heading just 3.5 degrees south right at takeoff, now that's a tiny change, right? Just a few feet difference at the nose of the plane as it leaves the runway.
Too tiny, yeah.
But over the course of that long flight, that tiny, tiny deviation means the plane won't land in New York. It'll end up in Washington, D.C., hundreds of miles off course. It just perfectly shows how these subtle shifts in our daily habits, when we stick to them, can guide our lives, and definitely our financial lives, to a totally different destination. Hopefully, a much better one.
Those are really strong visuals. It makes it so clear how these, under-the-radar changes can genuinely change where you end up. So today, we're going to take that idea, that power of compounding habits, and apply it directly to your money. We're going to unpack 4 key micro changes, these atomic habits for your finances. Habits that, if you implement them consistently, can deliver exactly that kind of massive return over time, leading you to a much more secure and frankly peaceful financial place. Okay, so let's get into the first one. All right, our first atomic habit for financial success is all about automating your money moves. You know, there's that great piece of wisdom, I think, often credited to Warren Buffett. Don't save what's left after spending, but spend what's left after saving.
Such a fundamental shift in perspective.
Right. It completely flips the script on how most of us maybe instinctively handle our money. It's about being proactive, not just dealing with the leftovers.
And that quote, you're absolutely right. It gets straight to the heart of the psychological win with automation. See, from a financial psychology view, putting off financial tasks, procrastinating, it's usually not just about not having enough time.
Okay.
More often, it's actually a way our brain reacts to negative feelings about money. Stress, anxiety, feeling overwhelmed, maybe even guilt. Our brains are basically wired to conserve energy and avoid anything that feels unpleasant or painful. And manually moving money around, deciding how much to save this month, figuring out when to invest, all that takes mental effort. It can trigger those negative feelings.
Yeah, I can see that. It feels like work.
It does. So when we automate, we build this solid system, kind of set it and forget it, and that system neatly bypasses those emotional hurdles. It's a perfect example of prioritizing systems over just goals. Goals tell you where you want to go, sure.
Right, the direction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's the consistent, reliable systems that actually get you there that ensure you make progress. You know the saying, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems.
I've heard that.
Automation just makes sure your financial system is constantly working for you, making saving and investing the default, the easy path.
That systems versus goals thing makes so much sense, especially when money feels so loaded emotionally. So, okay, practically speaking, what does this automation actually look like? What are the key things we should be setting up?
The absolute number one most critical step, setting up automatic transfers. This means scheduling regular, recurring transfers from the account where your income lands, your main checking account, probably into your different financial buckets.
Buckets, okay.
Yeah, like your dedicated savings account, your investment accounts. Think about things like your employer's plan, maybe a 401k if you're in the U.S.
Or a workplace pension in the UK.
Precisely. Or individual accounts like a Roth IRA, maybe investing in broad market funds like an S&P 500 index fund, or diversified mutual funds. And don't forget automating transfers for bills, especially if you share finances, like into a joint account. The real magic here is that even starting small, maybe just 5%, 10%, 20% of each paycheck, it adds up incredibly over time because of compounding. Your brain kind of quickly adjusts to living on the slightly smaller amount that's left, so the saving almost becomes invisible to your day-to-day spending.
And what about employer retirement plans? You mentioned those. I hear a lot about maximizing the match.
Oh, absolutely. That is non-negotiable if you have it available. Maximizing your employer match is probably the closest thing you'll ever find to free money.
Free money. Okay, I'm listening.
Seriously. If your employer offers to match your contributions up to, say, 3% or 5% of your salary, that's like getting an immediate, guaranteed 100% return on that part of your investment. It massively speeds up your wealth building with basically zero extra effort from you beyond setting it up. It's the ultimate example of paying yourself first. You treat your savings and investments just like any other essential monthly bill, like your rent or mortgage. It's not optional.
That psychological switch, making it a bill, not a leftover. seems key.
It's huge. It changes the whole game.
Okay, and specifically for investing within that automated system, what about dollar cost averaging? I hear that term thrown around. How does that fit in?
Dollar cost averaging, or DCA. It's a really elegant strategy, and it fits perfectly with automation, especially if you're investing for the long term. All it means is you invest a fixed amount of money at regular intervals, say every payday, or once a month into the same investment, like that index fund we mentioned, and you do it regardless of whether the market is up or down that day.
Okay, so you ignore the market swings.
You ignore the noise, exactly, the big psychological benefit. It takes the emotion out of it. It stops you from trying to time the market, which is trying to guess the perfect time to buy low and sell high.
Which is basically impossible.
Pretty much impossible to do consistently, even for the pros. So with DCA, by investing that same fixed amount regularly, when prices are low, your fixed amount buys more shares. When prices are high, it buys fewer shares. Over the long run, this usually leads to a lower average cost per share compared to trying to time things. There was a Vanguard study in 2023 looking at global stock market data going way back to 1976. It found that using DCA generally outperformed just holding cash about 69% of the time over a typical 12-month period. It just lets consistency do the heavy lifting and keeps your emotions on the sidelines.
69%. That's pretty compelling. And yeah, taking the guesswork and the anxiety out of it sounds like a massive relief. What about the practical timing? You set up these transfers. Any specific tips for when they should happen?
Yeah, one really simple but useful tip. Schedule those automatic transfers to happen a couple of days after your actual payday.
Ah, okay. Why?
Just gives a little buffer. Make sure your paycheck has definitely cleared and the funds are actually in your account before the transfer tries to go out. Avoids any potential issues like overdraft fees or the transfer failing. Simple, but saves headaches. And honestly, most modern banking apps, robo-advisors, financial planning tools, they make setting up recurring transfers super easy. A few clicks and you're done. The whole goal is to make these systems so smooth, so seamless, they just become this invisible, effortless background process in your financial life.
Can you give us maybe a real-world example? Someone who's really got this automation thing nailed down.
Sure. Let's take Mitch Shoesmith. He talks a lot about financial habits. He runs his personal finances using this really structured system with 5 different bank accounts.
5, okay.
Yeah. He's got one for income, where the money first lands, one for his regular spending, a joint one for shared bills, a dedicated savings account, and an investment account. The moment his paycheck hits that income account, wham! Preset automatic transfers immediately move the designated amounts into all the other accounts based on percentages he decided beforehand.
Wow, so it's instantly allocated.
Instantly. It guarantees that the money for saving and investing gets put aside first, that pay yourself first idea in action. It just completely removes the chance that he might accidentally spend that money on something else. It's a perfect example of how a solid automation system takes luck or willpower out of the equation and just makes your intentions happen.
That's really smart. It's like building your own internal financial plumbing system that just directs the flow automatically, puts up guardrails.
Exactly. Guardrails is a great way to put it, and you hear this from professionals too. Nishay Raul, he's a CPA, often talks about how his clients benefit hugely from this. Just by setting up those simple automatic transfers into, say, high-yield savings or investment accounts, they start tapping into that amazing power of compound interest without actively doing anything month to month. That's where those tiny, consistent inputs start to become really transformative over time.
Oh, and there's another fascinating study, the Save More Tomorrow program. Have you heard of that?
I don't think so, no. Tell me more.
It was designed by behavioral economists. They asked participants to commit to increasing their savings rate, but not right away. They committed to increasing it next year by a certain percentage.
Delaying the pain. Exactly. It delayed that immediate feeling of loss or sacrifice, which made it psychologically much easier to agree to. And the results were amazing. Within just 2 years, the people in this program had significantly higher savings rates than people who just got standard financial advice. It just shows how powerful it is to make saving the easy future default option rather than something you have to force yourself to do right now.
That is so clever. It's like a little psychological judo move you play on yourself. We're always looking for those nudges, aren't we? Like Thomas Kopelman says, the goal is to automate everything you possibly can to ensure you are on track for your goals.
And honestly, life's so complicated now, so many distractions. Making things automatic, it's not just nice to have, it feels essential for actually getting ahead and finding some peace with your money. Okay, moving on to our second key microchange. This one's about practicing mindful spending and delaying gratification. I think for a lot of us, those impulse buys, they just feel like the absolute enemy of our budget, right? That feeling of where did my money even go? This is where understanding our own psychology gets really, really interesting.
Oh, you've hit on such a core struggle. Because in today's world, this hyper-connected digital age, impulse spending isn't just like a personal failing. It's actively amplified by our own ancient wiring.
So.
Think about it. Those push notifications you get from shopping apps, they're basically the modern equivalent of stumbling upon a bush full of ripe berries back in the day.
They offer this immediate, low-effort dopamine hit. That buy now button, the one-click checkout, it's a direct line to instant gratification. A quick fix if you're bored, stressed, maybe just having a bad day. And this clashes directly with our long-term financial goals because of a cognitive bias called present bias.
Present bias?
Yeah, it's our built-in human tendency to value rewards we can get right now much more highly than rewards we have to wait for, even if the future reward is objectively way better. Our brains evolve for immediate survival and reward, not really for complex long-term financial planning like saving for retirement decades away.
And it's not just those sudden impulse buys, is it? There's also that other sneaky thing, lifestyle creep.
Oh, lifestyle creep. Yes, that's such a common and insidious psychological trap. What happens is as your income goes up, your spending tends to rise right along with it, sometimes even faster. So you find yourself earning more money, maybe significantly more, but you don't feel any better off financially. You're still living paycheck to paycheck, just maybe with nicer stuff. Doesn't matter if you're making $30,000 or $130,000. It happens across the board. It's driven by a few things: comparing ourselves to others, wanting what they have, and also something called the hedonic treadmill.
Hedonic treadmill.
Yeah, it's our tendency to quickly get used to new levels of comfort or luxury. So that thing that felt like a big treat yesterday, pretty soon it just feels normal, like a necessity.
Yeah.
There was a study, I think Willis Towers Watson in 2022, found about a third of people live paycheck to paycheck. Lifestyle creep is a huge reason why. We just keep chasing the next upgrade, but the happiness boost is always temporary.
Okay, so we've got this primal urge for instant gratification, amplified by technology, and this tendency to let our spending inflate with our income. How do we fight back? Especially against those impulse buys and that slow creep.
One of the simplest but most effective behavioral tools is the waiting period rule. You might call it the 24-hour rule, 48-hour, maybe even 72-hour rule. The idea is straightforward. You set a personal dollar threshold for what you consider a major non-essential purchase. Maybe it's anything over $50 or $100, whatever feels right for you. Then, when you feel the urge to buy something over that limit, you force yourself to wait for that preset period, 24, 48, 72 hours, before you actually click buy or go to the checkout.
Creating a cooling off period.
Exactly. It provides this crucial psychological space. It lets that initial wave of desire, that dopamine rush, fade a bit, and it gives your more rational thinking brain a chance to step in and evaluate. It's a direct countermeasure to those heat-of-the-moment impulse buys that you often regret later.
Okay, so you wait. What usually happens then? What are the likely outcomes?
Well, typically one of three things happens, and honestly, all of them are good outcomes from a financial perspective. First, you might just completely forget about the item. Turns out you didn't really need it or even want it that badly. It was just a passing fancy. That happens a lot. Second, you might use the time to reconsider and realize, you know what, I don't actually need this, or this doesn't really fit with my bigger financial goals or what's important to me. Or third, and this is still a win, you might still decide to buy it after the waiting period, but now it's not an impulse. It's a considered, intentional choice. You've thought it through. And making that conscious decision reinforces your sense of control and your identity as someone who manages their money thoughtfully.
Also, some mentions something called the 20x rule. That sounds intense.
Slight chuckle. It is a bit intense, but it's a really powerful mental model, especially for those non-essential, nice-to-have purchases. The rule basically says, if you cannot comfortably afford to buy that item 20 times over using your current savings, and this is key, savings beyond your emergency fund, then you can't truly afford it.
20 times. Wow.
Yeah. So say you're looking at a $200 pair of sneakers. The 20x rule would suggest you need at least $4,000 in readily available savings, plus your emergency fund, to justify buying them without compromising your financial stability. It forces this radical shift in perspective. Instead of asking, can I afford it once? You ask, can I comfortably afford this multiple times over without blinking? It's a fantastic way to combat lifestyle creep and keep the importance of your savings front and center. Really makes you question the true value of the purchase.
Those are great frameworks for bigger buys. What about just like day-to-day mindful spending habits, more subtle things?
Yeah, absolutely. Beyond those specific rules, there are several ongoing strategies to cultivate mindfulness. One is to think about the cost per use. Like if you're buying a car, don't just think about the sticker price. Divide it by how many days you realistically think you'll use it over its lifetime. Sometimes that number is surprisingly high.
Right, breaks down the real cost.
Exactly. Another is consciously choosing to buy value. Sometimes spending a bit more upfront for something high quality and durable actually saves you money in the long run because you're not constantly replacing cheap versions. Also, always factor in interest costs if you're using credit. That $100 item bought on a credit card with 21% interest, if you take a year to pay it off, it actually cost you $110. Knowing the true cost, including financing, is vital. And finally, remember budgeting isn't about feeling deprived. It's actually a tool to help you prioritize spending on the things that genuinely align with your values, with what's truly important to you. It's about directing your money with intention.
These sound like, yeah, small mental shifts, but with potentially huge long-term effects. Do you have some real-life examples of how these play out?
Oh, definitely. Think about gift giving, especially around big holidays like Christmas. Studies show billions are spent on unwanted gifts every year.
Billions, really?
Yeah, something like 1.27 billion in the UK alone, with the average unwanted gift costing around 41 bucks. And what's fascinating psychologically is that often younger generations, like Gen Z and millennials, who supposedly have less money, end up spending the most on these unwanted items. It's often driven by social pressure or just wanting that immediate gratification of giving something rather than focusing on true value or need. On a personal level, Mitch Shoesmith, again, he credits his own two-day rule, his version of the waiting period, with saving him hundreds of pounds a year just by stopping those spur-of-the-moment online purchases. It adds up fast.
Okay, I have to admit, food shopping is my weakness. I dread it, and I always seem to spend too much.
Chuckles, you were definitely not alone there. But it's such a prime area for mindful spending. Mitch Shoesmith and his partner, for example, they plan all their meals for the week ahead. They make a list, and they stick to it religiously when they shop. That simple discipline stops them from tossing extra, unplanned things into the cart that often just end up going to waste. Saves money, reduces food waste. Win-win.
Yeah, the dreaded list. I need to be better at that.
It works. And he also shared a great little story about negotiating bills. His partner saved, I think it was 70 pounds on her car insurance renewal.
How?
Just by calling her current insurer after getting a cheaper quote online from a competitor. She just asked if they could match it, and they did. Now, 70 pounds might seem small in the grand scheme of things, but think about doing that consistently with various bills over your entire adult life. That small saving compounds into a really significant amount. It's the power of consistent, mindful actions.
Wow, 70 pounds just for making a phone call. That's a pretty fantastic hourly rate when you think about it.
It absolutely is. And another really powerful example Mitch gave was about packing a lunch for work. He actually did the math. He figured if he'd spent just £5 a day on buying lunch at the office instead of packing his own over 6 years, that would have cost him £6,240.
Over 6,000 pounds. Just on lunch.
Yeah, just on lunch. It's such a vivid illustration of how those seemingly tiny daily amounts, when spent consistently, compound into big amounts of money. Really makes you stop and think about those little daily habits.
It really, really does. Makes you look at every coffee, every snack completely differently.
Indeed. And there's one more psychological trap to be really aware of here. Mental accounting.
Mental accounting, what's that?
It's how we tend to treat money differently depending on where we think it came from. Research shows, for example, if someone finds, say, $20 on the street.
Lucky them.
Right. But what often happens is they end up spending way more than $20 soon after. Maybe they splurge on a fancy coffee they wouldn't normally buy, or a bottle of wine, or put it towards some gadget. That found $20 gets mentally labeled as bonus money or play money, not like their regular hard-earned income, so they feel freer to spend it and often end up spending even more of their other money along with it.
Huh. So finding $20 somehow leads to spending $60. That's weird.
It is weird, but it's a documented bias. We treat different dollars differently based on their source. Being aware of that trap can stop you from turning a small windfall into a net loss through careless spending. You know, looking back on my own habits years ago, before I really dug into this stuff, it's easy to see where I could have saved so much more just by being mindful. I'm certainly glad I eventually learned these lessons.
All right, let's move on to our third micro change, which feels incredibly foundational. It's all about gaining real awareness by actually tracking your finances. This seems like maybe the most basic step, but also one that maybe a lot of us skip, getting a clear picture of where we actually stand. From that psychological angle, what does that awareness really do for us?
Oh, it does so much. This taps into something I sometimes call the superpower of hypervigilance. It's something you often see, interestingly, in people who grew up with financial scarcity. They frequently develop this almost uncanny awareness of their money.
Hypervigilance. Sounds intense.
It can be, but in this context, it's powerful. They just know exactly how much money they have, where it's going, when bills are due. It's not always conscious tracking. It's like this background awareness born out of necessity. And that constant awareness, it transforms into a potent wealth-building tool. Every dollar is accounted for, has a purpose. This deep awareness breeds a profound sense of control, which is like kryptonite to financial anxiety. In fact, the Certified Financial Planner Board of Standards found that 62% of people who keep a budget report feeling significantly more in control of their money.
62%. That's a big majority.
It really is. And beyond just feeling in control, tracking actively helps shift your identity.
Right.
You stop feeling like someone who's just reacting to their finances, maybe feeling helpless, and you start seeing yourself as someone who is actively managing their money, who's in the driver's seat. Remember, our habits tend to follow our self-image. So tracking reinforces that positive identity of being financially capable and in control. It also helps counteract biases like optimism bias, where we think we're doing better than we are, or just forgetting all those little expenses.
That identity link is really interesting. Okay, so if we want to cultivate this superpower, this awareness, what are the absolute must-track things? Where do we even begin?
Okay, number one, without a doubt, you need to monitor your net worth.
Net worth, right?
It's a simple calculation, but incredibly revealing. You take everything you own your assets. That's cash in the bank, investments, retirement accounts, maybe the value of your home, car, other valuables. Then you subtract everything you owe your debts. Student loans, credit card balances, mortgages, car loans, etc. Assets minus debts equals your net worth. This single number is probably the best single indicator of your long-term financial health and trajectory.
Okay.
And tracking it regularly, say once a month, is hugely motivating.
Yeah.
You can actually see the impact of your positive habits as that number hopefully goes up. It makes the progress tangible. There are great tools out there, like the Bolden Retirement Planner is one example, that make tracking net worth and other key metrics really straightforward over time.
Got it. Net worth for the big picture. What about the day-to-day, month-to-month flow?
Right. That brings us to tracking your monthly cash flow. This is just as crucial. It's a simple comparison. How much money came in this month, your total income from all sources, versus how much money went out, all your spending and expenses.
In versus out.
Exactly. The goal is basic but vital. You need your in to be consistently higher than your out. If you find your expenses are regularly exceeding your income, that's a massive red flag. It means you're on an unsustainable path, digging yourself into a hole. Understanding your cash flow is fundamental to living within your means, and, really importantly, it helps you pinpoint exactly where your money is going so you can identify areas to cut back if needed.
This definitely sounds like budgeting, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Which, let's face it, has a bit of a bad reputation. People think it's restrictive.
It absolutely is budgeting, and yeah, it gets a bad rap, but the psychology around it is fascinating. Studies show something like 82% of Americans think they budget, but they do it mentally, just kind of keeping track in their head.
I've done that.
We all have. But only about 36% actually write it down or track it digitally, and that gap is huge. It highlights a major cognitive bias. We are notoriously bad at accurately estimating our spending mentally. Keeping track in your head just doesn't work reliably when it comes to money. The act of actually writing it down or using an app or spreadsheet, it forces you to confront the reality. It commits the information to memory better, reinforces the habit, and stops those death by 1,000 cuts small spends from going unnoticed. It brings a clarity that mental math just can't provide.
Yeah, the mental budget can definitely play tricks on you. What about those recurring charges, the ones that just seem to disappear from your account each month?
Ah, yes, subscriptions, the silent budget killers. They sneak up on you. A really vital atomic habit here is to regularly, systematically audit all your subscriptions and recurring payments.
Audit them.
Yeah, just go through your bank and credit card statements periodically, maybe once a month or once a quarter. Look for every recurring charge. Ask yourself, am I actually using this service? Is it providing value equal to its cost? So many people sign up for free trials that convert to paid subscriptions or small monthly services they used once and forgot about. Cancel anything you're not actively using and valuing. The money you save can then be intentionally redirected towards your savings or investment goals. It's often like finding free money you didn't know you had.
That's a great tip.
Yeah.
Okay, and for an even more immediate daily dose of awareness.
A super simple yet incredibly powerful daily habit. Just take 5 minutes every evening to quickly review your bank account and credit card transactions from that day.
Every night.
Every night. Just a quick scan, see where your money actually went. Doing this consistently creates this immediate feedback loop. It makes you much more conscious of your spending patterns as they happen. That constant micro-level awareness means money doesn't just vanish mysteriously. Every dollar's journey is visible, making you more intentional with future spending. And for managing debt, definitely leverage technology. There are tons of apps and online calculators that can give you a really clear picture of all your debts, the interest rates. Seeing it all laid out clearly helps you prioritize paying down the high-interest debt first, which saves you the most money. It makes tackling debt feel less overwhelming and more strategic.
Can you share any stories? How does this intense awareness actually change things for people?
Absolutely. There was a really compelling post on Reddit from someone, username Wire62. They talked about going from just swiping their debit card without really thinking about the balance to adopting this simple habit, checking their bank balance every single day and logging all their transactions in a spreadsheet.
Wow, that's commitment.
It is. But they said that shift created this constant awareness. And the results. They started saving more, drastically cut down on fast food, made fewer impulse purchases. Just having that clear picture changed their behavior automatically. And that VEG outsource you mentioned earlier had a really insightful point about people who grew up poor. They often know their net worth instinctively. Without needing to check an app, they track it almost subconsciously. They spot fraudulent charges instantly because they know exactly what should be there. That constant awareness means money never just disappears. Every dollar has intention. It's a survival skill that becomes this incredible, almost ingrained advantage for building wealth when maintained.
Okay, we're on to our fourth and final micro change for building these atomic financial habits. And this one is about actively cultivating financial knowledge, and maybe even harder for some of us, breaking the taboo around talking about money. It really does feel like money is just one of those topics you're not supposed to bring up in polite conversation.
Right. You are absolutely right. You've put your finger on a huge psychological roadblock that really holds people back. Money feels intensely personal. And our own experiences with it, which, let's face it, in the grand sweep of global finance, are statistically tiny. Like 0.0000001% of everything that's ever happened with money. Those tiny personal experiences end up shaping something like 80% of how we believe the entire world of money actually works.
80%? Wow, that's huge.
It is. It leads to us forming these things financial psychologists call money blueprints or money scripts. These are basically unconscious beliefs and attitudes about money that we absorb, often from our families growing up, usually without ever really questioning them. Combine that with the fact that most schools still do a pretty poor job of teaching practical financial literacy, and you end up with a lot of adults who just don't feel confident managing their own finances. There was a UK study, Money and Pension Service, found 45% of adults lacked confidence in managing money.
Almost half.
Yeah, almost half. So to break free from those old scripts and build real confidence, we have to do two things. Actively seek out knowledge ourselves, and maybe even more crucially, start dismantling that social taboo about discussing money openly. It's like Warren Buffett said about learning. That's how knowledge works. It builds up like compound interest. The more you learn, the more connections you make, the faster your understanding grows.
Okay, so these money blueprints are deep-seated. The taboo is strong. How do we actually start doing this? Cultivating knowledge, starting those conversations. What are the practical atomic steps?
Well, first, just make a conscious decision to reject the idea that money talk is forbidden. Start talking about it carefully with people you trust, friends, family. The goal isn't to compare salaries or boast or judge. No keeping up with the Joneses.
Right, not about that.
No. It's about sharing strategies, understanding different perspectives, learning what works for others, talking about financial values. It's about pooling knowledge. You'd be surprised how much both people can learn from these conversations. You could start gently, maybe ask things like, hey, how are you thinking about saving for retirement these days? Or, with inflation being what it is, are you doing anything differently with your finances? Or even just, where do you usually go to learn about money stuff? Any good resources you'd recommend? They're open-ended questions that invite sharing, not prying.
Those are great examples. They feel really natural, collaborative. Okay, so talking is one part. What about consistently learning on our own?
That's the other key piece. Make learning about finance a small, regular part of your routine, non-negotiable, like brushing your teeth. Dedicate just a little bit of time consistently, maybe 10, 15 minutes a day or an hour once a week, to learning something new about personal finance, investing, maybe even basic economics or business
How could
finance.
that look like?
It could be as simple as scanning the financial headlines while you have your coffee, reading one or two articles from reputable sources, listening to a finance podcast like this one, watching a short educational video on YouTube. The specific activity matters less than the consistency. Like any skill, whether it's playing guitar or learning Spanish, the more you consistently practice and expose yourself to financial concepts, the more comfortable and confident you'll become. It gradually starts to overwrite those old, unhelpful money scripts.
And I guess just reading or listening isn't quite enough, right? You have to actually do something with that knowledge for it to stick.
Exactly. Passive learning is a good start, but it's not where the transformation happens. You've got to actively apply what you're learning to your own situation, your own goals. This is where tools like that Bolden Retirement Planner or similar planning software or even spreadsheets can be really helpful. They let you run what-if scenarios. What if I saved 2% more? What if I invested more aggressively? What if I bought that house? What happens if I retire earlier?
Playing with the numbers.
Yes. That hands-on engagement makes the concepts real and helps you make informed decisions that are right for you. It helps you answer those personal questions. Can I actually afford that big trip next year? Or should I focus on paying off my mortgage faster or put more into my investments right now? There's rarely one single right answer for everyone. Applying knowledge helps you figure out your right answer based on your values and circumstances.
That connects perfectly to goals then. We talked about systems being key for progress, but goals still set the direction right.
Absolutely. Goals are crucial for setting the direction, for giving your systems purpose. Psychologically, you are almost guaranteed to do better financially if you have clear, written financial goals that you revisit regularly. Here's an atomic habit for that. Just mentally run through your main financial goals once a day, maybe when you wake up or during your commute. Even though you're not physically doing anything in that moment, that mental rehearsal reinforces your commitment, keeps your subconscious focused. And it's also really powerful to consciously bring your goals to mind during actual financial decisions, big or small. So you're in the supermarket eyeing that expensive punnet of berries. Just take a second to remember your goal of saving for a down payment or paying off that credit card.
Connects the micro decision to the macro goal.
Precisely. It helps you evaluate that small purchase in the context of what you really want long term. It keeps your values front and center and acts as a natural brake on impulsive spending.
Can you give us a sense of how powerful this knowledge cultivation piece can be? Any examples?
Well, think about Mick Shoesmith again. We talked about his automation system. He also shared that he read over 100 books on investing and personal finance before he even hit his mid-20s.
100 books, wow.
Yeah, he admitted it was maybe a little bit extreme, but that intense period of self-directed learning gave him a level of financial confidence and clarity that frankly most people never achieve because they don't get that education formally. That relentless learning was his foundation. And there was another interesting take from a Reddit user, Verinius Dev. They pointed out that investments aren't always just stocks and bonds. Investing in your health, like getting a gym membership so you have more energy, or investing in better tools for your work, like a faster laptop that makes you more productive, might not look like traditional investing.
Right.
But they can indirectly grow your wealth significantly by improving your well-being, boosting your earning potential, or saving you time. Seeing investment more broadly like that is a really powerful shift in thinking.
And Morgan Housel's book, The Psychology of Money, it feels like required reading for this whole topic, doesn't it? Like the unofficial textbook for this deep dive.
Oh, it's absolutely fantastic. A cornerstone resource for anyone interested in this intersection of money and mind. Housel just brilliantly explores how our emotions, our biases, our behaviors drive our financial outcomes, often much more than our spreadsheets or market knowledge. He stresses these crucial psychological ideas, the importance of humility, acknowledging the role of luck, the power of just controlling what you can control, like your savings rate and your spending, rather than obsessing over market forecasts. Avoiding lifestyle inflation is huge in his work, too.
Staying grounded.
Exactly. His work really helps you build a healthier, more resilient relationship with money, which is ultimately far more valuable and sustainable than just chasing the highest possible return at all costs. So yeah, maybe instead of scrolling social media or playing Wordle for 15 minutes, use that time to play the game of your own financial future. Explore some scenarios, read an article, learn something new. It's probably a much better investment of your time. Hashtag outro character.
Wow. That
Yeah.
was that was a really deep dive. So much practical, actionable stuff there, all about changing our financial lives, not with huge leaps, but just one small, consistent habit at a time. We've covered a lot. The magic of automating your money, the importance of mindful spending and waiting out those impulses, the absolute necessity of tracking and awareness, and finally, building your knowledge and actually talking about money.
And just to really bring it home, that core message again, atomic habits for financial success. They're not about grand heroic efforts or overnight transformations. It's all about those tiny consistent steps, like that 1% gain for the cyclist or that tiny 3.5-degree course correction for the airplane. They seem small individually, but they accumulate, they compound into truly massive results over time. And as we saw again and again today, the real key isn't necessarily how much money you start with, it's how consistently, how intelligently you apply these small, smart behaviors day in, day out. Consistency really is the engine of wealth creation and finding that financial peace of mind.
It feels really empowering, actually, to know that building wealth, getting secure, it doesn't have to mean making these huge, painful sacrifices or setting totally unrealistic goals that you just can't stick with. It's more about finding a balance, right?
Yeah.
Finding habits you can actually live with long term.
Exactly. That sustainability is crucial. Ultimately, this whole journey is about gaining real control over your money so you're directing it instead of feeling like it's controlling you. And the power to do that, it lies within you. You absolutely have the ability to hack your own behavior, to shift your patterns, and to genuinely transform your financial future just one small atomic habit at a time. Seriously, even if you just pick one tactic from everything we discussed today, just one, and focus on making it automatic, embedding it into your routine, you'll already be setting yourself on a much stronger path. And maybe, as a final thought to leave you with, something to chew on, consider this. The journey from financial struggle to financial security using these kinds of habits. It's usually not flashy. It's not the stuff of Instagram legends. It's often built on thousands of small, quiet decisions. Things that, from the outside, might even look a bit like, well, holdovers from tougher times. It's deciding to learn how to fix that leaky faucet yourself and investing the money you saved on the plumber. It's driving the same reliable car for 10 years while your investment account quietly grows. And the real irony, people who've built wealth this way, especially if they started from scarcity, often don't feel rich even when the numbers say they are.
Interesting.
Yeah, they might still instinctively check the price per unit at the grocery store, still feel a little jolt of panic when an unexpected bill arrives, still find it hard to spend money on themselves even when they can easily afford it. But that very caution, that ingrained discipline, that deep memory of what it felt like not to have enough, that's often precisely what keeps the money growing. The fear of going back becomes, in a strange way, the guardian of their wealth. They get financially secure, not by forgetting where they came from, but by remembering it and acting on those lessons every single day.
That's really powerful. A lot to think about there. So as you go about your week, we really hope you'll take this to heart. Choose just one thing, one micro habit from today, and just start. Make it consistent. See what happens. And hey, we'd genuinely love to hear from you. What's the one atomic financial habit you're thinking of trying? Or maybe what's one habit that's already made a big difference for you? Let us know. Thank you, as always, for joining us here on The Deep Dive. Until next time, keep diving deep, keep learning, and keep building those atomic habits.